Alright, so today is World Turtle Day, and in honor of World Turtle Day, I'm going to actually go through my entire collection and show you different turtles and tortoises from different parts of the world using what I have here. I don't have everything, thank God, but I will use what I have to kind of show you guys a little bit of the variation in turtles and tortoises from around the world, some things you may be familiar with and things that you might not have seen before. Alright, so to start with, you may be familiar with this turtle. In fact, most people are familiar with this turtle. This is the red-eared slider. This guy's a little bit shy. This is the only red-eared slider I actually have. He's just kind of a unique and pretty looking, version of the red-eared slider. And these turtles have managed to, through the pet trade, kind of take over the entire world. You can go to Europe, Asia, South America, pretty much everywhere except Antarctica, and you can find these turtles. They're super adaptable, super food aggressive, and it's just enabled them to be able to kind of take over everywhere. So it's really common to kind of be somewhere way out of their range and find the red-eared slider. I don't always recommend them as a pet turtle, but they kind of end up in most people's homes anyway. That are going to have a turtle. Most people, this is their first turtle. So I'm going to show you a relative of the red-eared slider. This is another slider you may have heard of, and this is the yellow-bellied slider. This is an adult female. And one way to recognize the yellow-bellied slider is by those blotches behind the eye. Whereas the red-eared slider has a stripe behind the eye, the yellow-bellied slider has a big blotch behind the eye. They're very domed, they're very thick because they live in the southeast, and a lot of their range actually overlaps with the alligator. And this gives them a little bit of a protection, a little bit of an edge to survive around such big reptilian predators. So these two are two American sliders. These are two sliders that I have. I don't have any Cumberland sliders, I don't have any of the other sliders, but I do have these guys, and these guys are really cool. So let's look at some other turtles. Alright, so I'm going to kind of look at some other basking turtles that are native to North America. One of my favorites is the eastern painted turtle. This is a turtle I've covered in a previous video, and they're just beautiful, and there's several other species of painted turtle. This is the eastern, but there's also the midland painted turtle, the southern painted turtle, and the western painted turtle. And they range all over North America, and they're really cold hardy turtles and really adaptable. They prefer to live in ponds and lakes and kind of still water, but I have found them in creeks and small streams. So painted turtles, super cool. Eastern river cooter, and these are large basking turtles. And my dog just puked in the background, that's awesome. So these are large basking turtles. They live in rivers and streams throughout the eastern half of the United States, all the way over to the Mississippi, and then they actually dip a little bit into Texas and northern Mexico. And the river cooters are really cool, really large turtles with a cool looking like smooth shell, and it's very tapered to kind of cut through moving water. So eastern river cooters are just beautiful turtles. There's also, somewhere behind me, there is the Florida cooter, peninsula cooter, and red-bellied cooter. And I've also featured them in a previous video I did on cooters, and I'll put a link to that right here. The North American cooters are a pretty big group of turtles called Sudemis, and they live throughout the southeast United States and kind of come around through Texas. And big basking turtles, big herbivores. They like to eat vegetation off the bottom and off of rocks, and some of them even kind of nibble at algae floating on the surface of the water. So really cool, really adaptable, and those are the cooters. Alright, so on the subject of basking turtles, another North American group of turtles that's really awesome is the map turtles. And here I have, this is a blotched map turtle, which is actually an endangered species from the southeast United States, along the border of Mississippi and Louisiana. And they're also part of a group of map turtles known as the sawbacks. And you can see why. They have these strong knobs on the center keel going down the back of the shell. This one's not fully grown yet, but males don't get much bigger than this. And then here I have, this is a false map turtle, and this is a very common map turtle in the pet trade, and it also has a pretty wide range. And I also have, in addition to this false map turtle, I have a Mississippi map that I featured in another video, but I couldn't round up for today. She's hiding at the bottom somewhere. So right here, two members of the map turtle family, widely distributed group of turtles across the U.S. and in some cases, like the blotched map turtle, highly threatened and even endangered in some parts of their range. All right, so I'm going to try not to get bit doing this, but one of my favorite groups of turtles is the North American musk turtles. And here we have, this is a stinkpot, aka common musk turtle, and they're identified by the stripes on their face. You'll see the stripes going through the eye and to the tip of the nose, and usually there's one just above the lower jaw. Right here, this is a striped neck musk turtle, and these guys are native to Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, and even the panhandle of Florida. And these guys are really cool. These guys live in cold flowing trout streams, and they're very similar to this one here on the end, very similar to the loggerhead musk turtle. In fact, they actually used to be a subspecies of the loggerhead musk turtle. And then the big one in the middle is the largest of our North American musk turtles, and that's the razorback musk. And you can see the keel on that shell. That's why they call this the razorback musk turtle. And they can get up to 7 inches. They're similar in habit to the loggerhead musk turtle. They like to live in streams and rivers. They swim along the bottom, and they'll eat, all of these turtles will eat mollusks and crustaceans and, little tiny aquatic insects. So little tiny predatory turtles. And for the most part, this is as big as they all get, which makes them really, really cool as pets. Also just makes them cool in general. They're just like these little micro machines running around on the bottom, causing chaos. So I really love musk turtles. All right, so very similar to the musk turtles are the mud turtles. And one way to tell the difference between a mud turtle and a musk turtle is the mud turtle has a hinged shell and a much larger shell than the musk turtle. The musk turtle kind of has more of a fixed design to the plastron. I think there's a little bit of leeway there, but not like the well-developed hinge of the mud turtle. You can actually see this female can close up very similar to like a box turtle. And that is one thing that separates the mud turtles from the musks. Mud turtles will also spend a lot of time on land. They like to live in floodplains near rivers or streams or ponds, and they'll actually go up on land for part of the year and run around on land, living kind of terrestrial. And then when it floods and it rains, they come back down into the water. So mud turtles are really, really awesome. I keep striped mud turtles, so that's what these two are. And this is a stink pot that you saw earlier. So I'm gonna put these guys back and we'll move on to snapping turtles. All right, so these are the snapping turtles. This is the common snapping turtle right here. And as you can see, a far more aggressive, faster turtle. These guys have a long neck, and they'll use that neck to shoot out and capture prey. And then on this side, this is the alligator snapping turtle. This is a female, so this is about as big as she'll get. Males can get about twice this size. And as you can see, very different from the common snapping turtle. They have these 3 keels down the back. Much larger overall size, much larger head, and yeah. So these are the snapping turtles, and this guy is really not fun. I'm gonna put him back. All right, so another North American group of turtles that are really awesome is the soft shells. They almost look alien or look like a character from SpongeBob with their long, snorkel nose, these fleshy little lips, and that little pancake shell. There's just nothing like a soft shell. They have like paddles for feet. They're really the coolest aquatic turtle there is, and they can move through the water super fast. That's why I don't have one in my hands right now, is because they're in there and they just keep getting away from me. So I'm gonna try and overlay some B-roll right here and kind of show you one of my soft shell turtles, but just some of the coolest aquatic turtles there is. So in the US, we have the spiny soft shell turtles, the smooth soft shell turtles, and the Florida soft shell turtles. And they basically range all the way across the US. The spinies kind of come down the East Coast, go all the way over into Texas, and the smooths are kind of mid-south all the way over to Texas. The Floridas kind of range all throughout the eastern coastal plain, and they're just these huge, turtles that you'll find in these rivers and streams. Females are much larger than the males. I believe female spinies can get up to about 20 inches and probably 30 or 40 pounds for a huge one. And I believe I heard the record for a Florida soft shell was somewhere near like 90 pounds or something ridiculous like that. Florida soft shells get completely massive. So some of the coolest turtles there are, and soft shells actually range all the way around the world. And the largest freshwater turtle in the world is actually an Asian soft shell turtle, which is pretty cool. So this is a turtle that's probably familiar to most people in the eastern half of the US, and that is the box turtle. I actually keep Gulf Coast box turtles, and they are subspecies of the eastern box turtle. And as you can see, this subadult, this is not fully grown yet, looks a lot like a fairly drab eastern box turtle. And these turtles are called box turtles because of this movable hinge they have on the front. This one's actually not going to use it, but just like the mud turtles we talked about earlier, they have a little hinge going across the bottom, and that is what they use for protection. They'll pull their head and legs in there, close up completely tight, and makes them known as the box turtles. The biggest threats to box turtles right now are collection for the pet trade and then road mortality. These guys will be crossing roads and just get completely smashed. When people develop onto their home range, they're going to be constantly moving around, and it puts them just more and more in contact with roadways. And it's really kind of sad because when I was a kid, you used to see box turtles everywhere, and it's just not like that anymore. So hopefully things will change at some point, and box turtles will be with us for a long time. But as of right now, the best thing you can do is if you find one of these guys crossing the road, just pick it up, move it to the other side. Box turtle! All right, for a quick pit stop in Africa, we have the African sulcata tortoise, or African spur-thighed tortoise. And these guys live in dry, arid areas, I believe the Sahel and Sub-Sahara, and they're just completely armored. They're kind of like a giant gopher tortoise in that they use these huge forelegs to dig these burrows into the ground, and they're also heavily armored. You can see these spurs and spikes and, you know, large growths of scute and bone that kind of cover their legs and their, you know, around the front of their head, and that's to protect them from all those predators and like lions, hyenas, you know, all that other crazy stuff they have in Africa that would love to make a meal out of a turtle or tortoise. These guys are super well protected against that. And this is actually a small subadult male, so this guy will get probably about twice this size later in life. And these guys just kind of roam, and they're kind of like cattle. They just walk around and they eat grass all day and just kind of graze, and then they'll bask for a while, and then end of the day they'll go in their burrow and just kind of repeat the process. So turtle that's very well bred and widely available in the pet trade. There's actually more sulcatas in the pet trade than there are in the wild. So yeah, African sulcata tortoise. All right, and to cover two of my species from South America, I have the yellow-footed tortoise, and this is a native of Brazil and I believe all the way up to Panama. And these are a South American tortoise species. They live in dense jungles with heavy canopies, so their eyes are very sensitive to full sunlight. So most of the time this tortoise is going to be hanging out usually along the edges of my yard or in the shade, and then in the morning and in the evening she'll come out in the open and wander around. But I've had this tortoise a long time. I love this tortoise a lot. I can't highly recommend yellowfoot or redfoot tortoises enough. They're probably my favorite overall tortoises. They're just the best. And they are under threat in their native range for food. It's not uncommon to go into food markets and see these guys kind of hanging. They'll actually hang them up by the shell as a food item. And then the other turtle I have from South America, this is my mata turtle. And these guys are actually a Pleodire. There's Cryptodire, which is pull the head in straight, and Pleurodire, which is they pull it in sideways, also known as side necks. And as you can see, the mata actually pulls its head in sideways like that, and its head is covered in like these flaps, and it's got like a little snorkel nose and all these little tubercles, and these also help camouflage it, also give it as like sensory receptors because they live in the dark tanned waters of the Amazon, and this helps them sense when fish are nearby and kind of makes them alert. And the way they feed on fish is when they get near, they shoot that head out, and the suction pulls the fish in, and that's how they have their meal. But they look very similar to like an alligator snapping turtle, and the way the shell is kind of evolved to mimic that of like old bark or a tree. And it also allows for algae to grow really freely on these guys and aid in that camouflage. So two of my South American species, and really just two of some of the coolest turtles and tortoises on the planet. Musk turtle. This is one of the coolest turtles there is. Look how fat he is. Oh my God, he got fed too much over the winter. This is one of the coolest turtles there is. It's a giant musk turtle. This is a musk turtle that will reach the size of a large common snapping turtle. And so this one, as you can see, is not even full grown yet. This is a young subadult male, and these guys are really neat in that they'll grow these, you know, big, cool-looking keels, and then their mouth is made for crushing mollusks, crustaceans, and other turtles. And so they're just a big, ornery turtle. And this is probably the fattest I've ever seen him. Like I said, I think he got fed a lot over the winter. So right now I'm trying to lean him out a little bit. But yeah, this is my Mexican giant musk turtle. These guys are native to obviously Mexico, but also Guatemala, Belize, and Honduras. So really cool turtles. Nothing really like them at all anywhere else in the world. Just the coolest. If you like snapping turtles, definitely got to check out Mexican giant musks. They do have a relative, and that's the Chiapas giant musk, which is a smaller version of this, Staurotypus salvini. These guys are Staurotypus triplicatus. And then there's another turtle in that group, and it's called the vampire musk, or the Claudius. And those guys are psychotic. They have these huge heads, little bodies, and they actually have like fangs on their little beak, and they're just little savages. This group of turtles is just completely, just kind of completely crazy. So we're gonna put him back, and we'll move on. Here I have some tortoises from the genus Testudo, and these are tortoises that live in Europe all the way over to Eurasia. And these guys are really neat, and for the most part, all Testudo are small little tortoises. Some of them, I think the marginateds might be the largest, and they might reach 11 or 12 inches, but for the most part, they're all very small and very, very kind of friendly. These guys are really, really adapt well to captivity. They'll come running when they see me. And just like I always describe them as like little hamburgers with legs. So here I have a Russian tortoise, and then this is a Greek tortoise. And as you can see, the Greek tortoise is very, very similar in build, just a little bit of difference in pattern and shell shape. But again, just a very cool little tortoise. And these guys live on little arid prairies. They like to hide under bushes and rocks and logs. And if you look behind me, they make little burrows. So they'll spend part of the day in these like neat little burrows that they make. And they're just really, really cool. And yeah, that's the genus Testudo, some of the best turtles on the planet. Let's move on to Asian stuff. All right, so lastly, these are my Asian species. These are species that are just some of the coolest on the planet in my mind. Starting with, this is my little Hyosemes grandis, and this is a really awesome species. The common name is, oh, it's gonna poop on me. That's their defensive behavior, is pooping and peeing, which most of the time works because I really don't want that on me. Common name is giant Asian wood turtle or giant Asian pond turtle, and this one is probably only a year old. They actually start off small and they get huge, so they grow really, really fast. I actually have a video with this and all my other Asian species in it, and I'll post links to those down in the description. I got to see adults of these, and they're massive. They're like big 18, 20-inch turtles. And the neat thing about them is, like most wood turtles, like even our North American wood turtles, they can live on land or in the water. So these guys are really awesome. They can just adapt to basically anything, and they will eat anything. This turtle will eat anything in front of it. It'll walk around and eat grass. It'll get in the pond. It'll eat pellets and fish and all kinds of stuff. So really, really cool. Next, this is an elongated tortoise, and this is a tortoise that, again, I saw this on my trip to Thailand. They used to be very abundant, and they're getting more rare in Thailand because people are eating them, kind of like what they do with turtles and tortoises throughout the world. It's popular to eat these, and so they're becoming more rare. In fact, all the ones I saw were actually at temples in Thailand, and people had brought these to the monks to take care of because they didn't want them to get eaten. So this one's pretty close to full grown. They'll get a little bit bigger than this, but I love their beautiful light colors, their light colored heads, and their nose will actually turn pink when it starts raining. These guys love the rain. And then over here, this is my Burmese black mountain tortoise. This is the largest tortoise in Southeast Asia and the fourth largest tortoise in the world. And this one is a few years old and just a beast. I mean, this tortoise will get as big as my sulcata is now. And these guys are really intelligent, always paying attention to what's going on. And they live in the mountains in Southeast Asia, so they're very cold tolerant. I can keep this tortoise out into 40-degree weather and it's just fine. In fact, it seems to be a little happier in the cool end. So that's why I keep it back here in this shaded part of my yard with all the bamboo and tree overhangs. Just does way better here than in full sunlight. They are endangered in Southeast Asia from people eating them, people exporting them for the pet business. So it's good that there's assurance colonies in the US for these tortoises. hoping to get some more and be able to do my part someday in the future, but for right now, I just am enjoying them. So thank you for watching this video. I appreciate all the views, I appreciate all the likes. Please share these videos with your friends and family. Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Thanks again.